everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming today. I'm very excited today to have everyone out here. This is an exciting event. Today I just want to let everyone know that this is being video recorded, so please be conscious of the noise and the conversations on the side. Once completed, we will have this published on our Facebook. I want to talk a little bit about Monte Jade. I'm sure many of us here already know about Monte Jade. Monte Jade was founded over 30 years ago. The purpose of Monte Jade was to always build community and bring communities together. And so the whole idea was a bunch of immigrants coming from overseas at that time were under-resourced and under-networked. And when they got together to form Monte Jade, the whole goal was, how do we help each other? So billions of dollars of enterprise value was formed from Monte Jade. And today, after 30 years, we're still around. Today, we have 3 pillars that we still focus on. Pillar number 1, we interview great leaders, like Zhou Renzang today that we will be interviewing. Number 2, we hold technology forums. The technology forums are purposefully created to let our community understand what are some of the cutting edge technologies where there's investment opportunities. And number 3 is we have a mentorship program. This mentorship program is a dedicated 6-month-long program where we focus on developing Asian Americans to succeed in corporate America. One of the biggest problems that we have in society today is that in the engineering level, at all the tech companies here in Silicon Valley, East Asians represent roughly 35% of the population base. But when you go to the director level, it drops down to 16%. You go to the VP level, it goes down to 9%. And at the very, very top, at the C level and board level, it's only 6%. This slope has gotten worse in the last 20 years. So what we have done as a community has not worked in the past. So we need to start changing it. That's the core value of our mentorship program. I want to give a special thank today to Pal Pilot, who is hosting this great facility. Their CEO, YC, is back over there. Thank you, YC. Monte Jade is only here because of its great sponsors like YC providing great facilities, and the great sponsors that we have here as well. UMC, Deloitte, as our 2 top sponsors, are all very, very paramount, enabling us to succeed long term. And so in Q3, we had over 18 events held. 18 just in Q3. Going forward in Q4 and Q1, we have over 16 events already pre-planned. If you are interested in any of our events, please come out to our website or our Facebook page. You can follow us there, and you'll be able to see what we're doing. At this current time, I get the opportunity to introduce Zhou Renzang. He was born in Taixing, Jiangsu Province of China. He left China for Taiwan at the age of 11. Graduated from the Chinese Naval Academy of Kaohsiung in 1958 and received an MS in nuclear engineering from the National Tsinghua University in Hsinchu, 1965. He then earned his PhD in nuclear engineering from the University of Karlsruhe, Germany, in 1970. He authored over 25 journal articles on nuclear science, accelerator applications, nuclear applications, and he is a frequent contributor to the Sino-Canadian-American Science News Brief. From 1992 to 2002, Dr. Zhou was the director of the Science Division, Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in San Francisco, SDSF, as well as a distinguished nuclear physicist and government leader. From 1970 to 1992, he served as the director in the Institute of Nuclear Research, Lungtan, Taiwan, before leaving to lead SDSF. For more than 9 years, Dr. Zhou also volunteered as Secretary General, serving on the boards of Monte Jade, Science Technology Association. Since his retirement in 2002, he has volunteered in various organizations including Monte Jade, Stanford University, and Asian Liver Center, and Chinese Cancer Care Foundation. In his retirement, he enjoys gardening, traveling, and visiting, of course, and spoiling his 4 grandchildren. At this time, Honorable Zhou Renzang, please join us on the stage. Thank you. I'm glad you could be here today.
Thank you.
Please sit. Look at all the people here to see you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Davey, for this introduction.
Of course. Now we were, this was about...
First is think of my feeling. Today at the breakfast, I told my wife, I have the same feeling 50 years ago when I was in Germany, the day I have my oral defense. But before 5 professors, I have to speak in German. Now, in English. Both are my foreign languages. I will try my best. Thank you.
Well, I'm so glad you could be here today. We were together in Palo Alto about 3-4 weeks ago, having some coffee, just having a conversation about how today would go. And what really surprised me was your story about fleeing China and then being supported by government services and resources. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey and how that's impacted your life?
Yes. So, as a 11-year-old boy from a rural village, even could speak Mandarin at all. I speak my dialect. Leaving parents in mainland China and came all by myself, alone, to Taiwan. I still remember, it's really a heartbreaking event for me. I still remember vividly the first day when I arrived, putting down the small bag. So I went all by myself to the back corner of the house and started crying. What I have in mind is that I will never be able to see my parents again. In beginning 1950s, in Taiwan, I was generally very poor. So I couldn't have a kind of basic living. So I couldn't enter high school, not mention colleges. But the government always provided a way for me for my continual education. I went to the normal school in Pingtung. There, all supported all the living by the government. Yeah, that's so that's I right. Can enter so-called equivalent high school days.
Right. Yeah, and so the government really supported you on that transition from mainland. I know you had talked a little bit about some of your Naval Academy experiences, and that was really a foundation of how you really gained your pride and like service to the country. And you made a lot of great people. Could you talk a little bit about how did you guys support one another during that process?
Yes. So then after the normal school, I also entered the Naval Academy of the Republic of China in Jiangsu, in Kaohsiung. And from there, really, I get 2 important things that is really indispensable and also very helpful to the rest of my life. First is a strong sense of country. So, 强烈的国家观念. Yeah. And second is the friendship among all the old friends. I'm so glad I have a Navy friend, classmate here, Mr. Niu Zhenyong, and we just so we have been an old classmates for 60 years, and even these 60 years we are together in Taipei, or we meet every 2 other weeks together.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So after 60 years, you're still meeting pretty frequently. Like, have the conversations changed? Like, what do you guys talk about these days after 60 years?
Rich just come from Taipei. He knows better. But normally, we will talk about the old story, common story when we were together, and bring love together. All. It's really amazing how the power, the memory power they have, even to the detail. We share also photos, old photos we were together, and sometimes we talk about politics, but just by side, we're retired. We wonder why the president couldn't even mention the name of the country by that time. And also, we don't even often see the flags or seen anything, yeah.
Right.
But we just talk to each other and enjoy each other.
That's fantastic. So I know through your naval service, it was really when your interest in nuclear power was born. And take us through how did that happen? Like what formed it, and what interested you in that part?
After 4 years of service in Navy, after an entrance examination, I entered the graduate school of National Tsinghua University. This is a graduate school for nuclear science. That's the beginning I entered nuclear arena. I realized to do nuclear, need people from all disciplines working together. Yeah, this is for nuclear power plant indeed. And also through that, I entered the fascinating microscopic world.
That's amazing. And so I know as you got into nuclear power, this is what really transitioned you into Germany on behalf of the Defense Research Institute. And so Germany, this is post-World War II. Did you have any issues integrating? Tell us, how did that switch from being in Taiwan to Germany feel? How was that?
I think I studied German, started with a German Catholic nun in Jiangsu. So I found German is not difficult at all. So I gained such a confidence to study in Germany. Yeah, and then I think after World War II, Germany was allowed to do nuclear very late, only after 1950, late part, I think 57, 58. So they started very quick. That was globally nuclear booming area. Everybody wants to have nuclear, especially in Europe. Almost every country have their own nuclear centers. Like in France, there's Catarage, there's a lot of difference. And in England, Howell, and also in Belgium, Mold, in Frascati, in Italy, and some else. In Germany, there are two. When in Jülich, they do a high temperature gas cooled reactor. Still very successful. I think North Beijing, they have a reactor for district cooled. They're also from Germany originally. And I studied in Karlsruhe, which is for faster breeder reactor at that time. The breeder in German plural, like brothers. So that people together we are fast brothers. Wir sind schneller Brüder.
That's amazing. I know you had talked about you were in Germany for so long that you even started dreaming in German.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So do you still dream in German? When was the last time you dreamed in German?
The professor I contact with is a professor at the university, Professor Wirtz. And he is also a director of the center, Nuclear Research Center in Karlsruhe. And, so that in that center, by that time, 5,000 people. I was the only Chinese over there. So daily, I speak daily only German. It takes not long. I dream in German. So.
And what was the last time though? When was the last time you dreamed in German?
Oh, even after I came back to Taiwan, I speak. I dream sometimes in German. Also, my wife Lina, she also speaks German because he's a professor for German language in the university. So, at times when we have something don't want the kids know, we just simply we speak in German. And then I only learned recently from my daughter. She said, "Dad, what you said that time, I knew everything. I understand everything." It's amazing how a child they comprehend language so well. So nowadays, I'm I think in U.S. for almost 30 years already. I didn't even drink in English. That's why my English is so poor.
So you had mentioned that Germany was actually a very late comer to nuclear research. Mm-hmm. So what drove you to go there? And tell us about the general situation in Europe at that time for nuclear research.
Yeah, I think that by that time the government has a generous budget support for all the nuclear research. So I know that nuclear research center, if you are going to do some experiment, all supported by the government. You don't have to follow the professor or find a fund by this is a lengthy process. That's why I know it's a good way to study.
Sure. So I know that you had talked a little bit about once you were able to go to Germany, you were able to reconnect back to some family in China because it was not allowed when you were in Taiwan. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yes. When you come to Taiwan, by that time it's not able to do any connecting. It's a taboo in Taiwan. But when I came to Germany in 1966, 17 years after, I tried to connect my parents in China. Luckily, I got response. But sadly, I learned my dad passed away 4 years ago, but only 4 years after I learned that. Just crying, you know nothing. And this also bring some difficulty to my family members there because just the start of the Cultural Revolution at that time.
That's right.
But after a few years, there's not much better because you have money from abroad, then you can do much more things because you don't have to have this ticket to buy something. You send money, and they can build their own house after the was dismantled by the time. Yeah, it's still a help for them. Yeah.
That's good. That's an amazing yet very tragic story that many people in Taiwan faced at that time with immigrating from China and fleeing to Taiwan. Now I know graduating in Germany afterwards, there's maybe not so many opportunities in Germany at that time, and you were working for the government, so you ended up coming back. Did you ever even think about staying in Germany?
Yeah, I was supported by the government to study in Germany. I have no other thought. So only after I finished my study, and only within 1 month after my oral defense, I went back to Taiwan, to the institute I used to serve.
That's right. That's right. And when you were growing early in your career, I know you did a lot of nuclear research, and you began progressing up the ministry at that time. In 1964, we had China detonating their first nuclear bomb, which really accelerated Taiwan's push to develop a nuclear weapon or a nuclear technology as well. But it was also very well known that the U.S. put an end to that type of research very, very quickly. So how did that impact you as a researcher in the institute, and how do you manage this with your team?
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned the institute. I spent 27 years there. I'm also glad a gentleman, Dr. Jen-Chang, we were friends when I served the institute. Dr. Li is an expert in water chemistry for power reactors. He's doing a lot of contribution to Taiwan. I'm so glad he just, without my knowing, he came over here. And and his wife was so astonished when I, right away, comes out name after 40 years. I'm so glad because he's so important to us, to Taiwan nuclear development. Yeah. Yes, I think what you mentioned was the beginning of the institute. That the institute beginning in 1965, after the mainland China. I would say mainland Chinese, not China. They are not detonate this. There was some decision, if there is some threat in that part, how we can do that, something like that. But not long afterwards, that was in 1977, under the Carter administration, the U.S. They say they have some concern about the nuclear development in Taiwan.
That's right.
So, under a kind of agreement, I call trilateral agreement. The agreement is between IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, USA, and ROC. By that time, not until 79. That's still diplomatic relationships with ROC. Taiwan should open all the nuclear facility to US and IAEA for inspection.
That's right.
Yeah. Starting from that time, Taiwan's nuclear activity is open, almost transparent to USA and also IAEA. Yeah. So then we have to change some activity. Jiangsu also public announced we're not going to manufacture nuclear weapons.
That's right. That's right.
So we have to really diversify our effort. By that time, Taiwan's already started with nuclear. So we do helps to nuclear power plants. That's why Dr. Lin also come to us. He's doing the water chemistry. You know, the reactor cooled by water, the water under such a higher intensity of radiation and with some other heated amount can be sustainable. Corrosion become the least, something like that. We also have people doing that, and some others. I will mention you how diversified we are going to do. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I know soon after you were actually awarded one of the 10 most outstanding youths of Taiwan, along with Stan Shi of Acer. So can you how does that feel to be awarded? I've never been awarded anything like that. So how does that feel to be really at the apex of a society and a community?
Yeah, if I feel this not an honor to me, but honor to my group, my team. By that time, I was a division director at the accelerator lab. And you know, in Taiwan, if you're doing such a thing, you have to do it in teamwork. In our team, we have so many technicians. They're even not college graduate, but they're so capable with their hands-on technology. It reminds me of one of my colleagues. I can name by name Chen Maotang, Chen Yenzhen. He actually at our lab doing the vacuum evaporation and also equipment. With that technology, he built up his own company later with success. By that time, there's a market demand for the vacuum coating of a lens for cameras that use everywhere right now. And after the success of the company, he came to me, he said, 组长, at that time called me division director. I never think of a number called 100 million, hundreds million. 组长, but now I have the money of that amount by myself. I was so touching.
That's amazing. So I know you were promoted in 1979 to deputy director. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that as well?
Yeah, before I do only hands-on research. You mentioned the publication is only before that period. Because 79, I was promoted to deputy director of the institute. And 87, I was promoted again, director of the institute. From hands-on research to like a, I would say administrative, but serving to all colleagues at large for institute. This transition lead me, after I got this new post, whatever the employees, the people, they have a sense of kind of achievement. It's my joy. It's a source of my joy.
Yeah. That's
This
great.
is a change.
That's a big change. Yeah, definitely. I know you had talked to me about also that the goal and the direction of the institute changed midterm as well, right?
Yeah.
So you want to talk a little bit about that, like what changed within the direction of the institute?
Yeah, we have really, institute need to be diversified. To do a nuclear research, you need to do every respect of technology, like Dr. Lin in chemistry, like some others in chemical engineering, some are in electronics, some are in mechanical. But this is all the expertise they gained. So I asked my colleagues, we should really discuss what specialty we have. Based on this specialty, we can build the specialty lab. I call it 专业实验室. So under that consideration, we built 33 专业实验室. Water chemistry is one of it, and some others. So that we can contribute to a specific field, to the society, to the community.
Right.
But as you mentioned, such a big change has a lot of difficulties. Firstly, you have to allocate the budget to get it really to do the job. So by that time, I still remember my job is tough job, is to sit before all the legislator in the legislative yuan, justify your annual budget. And on that day, I remember, in all people at the institute knew that I was in legislature. They pray for me, whether I can really get through. And that was in that day in the afternoon. 4 people from the institute drove by themselves, come to Taipei to the legislature to see me. So that, director, can I speak to you? I was busy there now. Yes. I will tell you a very good news. This certainly will help you today in your job. Oh, what's about? They say, we have a breakthrough. Breakthrough in what? In cold fusion. Dr. Lin should know that was tough on that time. Cold fusion. Because it's a way to use energy, ultimate application or use of the energy, use fusion, but cold fusion without high temperature. That's really very new. Now, the news was come from I think Utah University. They announced that. So every institute worldwide tried to do that. And he asked me whether I can really speak to the public in the legislative yuan. We have this achievement. And also call a press conference thereby. I said, no. If we did that, we should first publish in a journal, technical journal, for journal review, not this way to publication. They all disappointed a little bit, but they went back. In the evening, I came to the institute. They're still there working. I said, you have to rest. Go home right now. Next in the morning, there's a message come to me. They found there's some leakage in the high power on detector. What they detect was not the real one. It's common to an experiment, but it would be embarrassing for the institute so we didn't do that. But it shows the effort at that time, the people working together. This is the spirit we can have meet the challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. It's you say 33 institutes so simply, but if you think about if we take a pause and think about how do we today even think about creating 33 labs and institutes in distance, that is an impossible feat. And so I really want to commend you on that capability, and I have no idea how that's even possible today.
In addition, by that time, we have E-tree already. E-tree to almost every industrial things related. You have to do things not duplicate as E-tree do. So that's what I think we do more specialties, very special. Like water chemistry, I think ITRI didn't do that. So we do that. That's why Dr. Lin came to us.
That's right. That's right. So I know after 27 years of service at the institute, you were then now managing roughly 1,300 people in the department at that time, and you got a call. You got a call from the State Department for a new opportunity. Can you tell us a little bit about this opportunity? It was Austria, right, at that time?
Yeah. That was a phone call from the National Science Council, not the.
Okay.
They asked me to open a science division in Vienna. I discussed with my wife whether it's to do that. First, I think they have a strategy. They want to get a buy one get one business because my wife also speaks good German. And then also they realized in IAEA, as I mentioned, it's a predominantly nuclear community up there that I was already very familiar with.
Right.
That might be very helpful to my job there. Yeah.
Sure. So I know that program was ultimately canceled, but a better one came up, which is really coming to the U.S. So what was the goal here? Tell us about that experience about coming to the U.S.
Yeah. Before, I didn't know that much about Silicon Valley. Yeah. As I came over here, it's an opportunity because my previous director, they was appointed to Washington D.C. People were almost now the Zhang Yi de先生. Then I came here. So amazing! I didn't ever so many high capable Chinese here. You know, I estimate by that time there were 40,000 Chinese working in Silicon Valley, which 1/4 of the total population after came from 50s to here. Perhaps Zhongnan knows much about that. And all the technologies and everything. This is indeed a good need for Taiwan. By that time, the Hsinchu Science Park just ramped up. They really need help from others. So that I wrote an article. I described it as a new generation, new era of the Chinese civilization, how they built up here.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I know you worked on a lot of newsletters for the department as well, right? So that was a shift in strategy on communication. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how that impacted?
I mentioned that there are 40,000 engineers and scientists here. I think the science division, but still today, like Mr. Ye-Nao, Director Ye-Nao, we have only 3 people in the science division. How we contact people in that large? At that time, Yamei knew that we start our science newsletter. Each month we publish newsletter detailing the situations of the science division, and get communication with each other. Then, through that, people want so many letters come on. They want to have more and more as a sign in to that. So we serve more and more people. I remember the number the science division has direct correspondence through that. It's around 4,000.
Right.
So we send letters, no email. We just send letters every month. Send 4,000 letters. The
newsletters, right? That's right.
And increase every day.
That's right.
So we get very good contact with them. And also so many associations built up.
That's right. That's right. I know this was a very big transition for you, right? So going from a domestic to a foreign country, I know you had to change some of the roles and the strategies of what you were working on. Can you talk us a little bit about how that really shifted?
Yeah. My job over there, here, by that time, if you express in one word, it's bridging. Take people together, bridging each other. People together, community together, something. I think this is very much fit my character. I really want to do to be helpful to everybody. Yeah.
Right. That's great. I know there were some challenges later on that you had experienced, and you had some challenges with some political interferences.
Yeah, if you ask, yes, indeed, there was some political interferences, and some people claim that I don't love Taiwan. And then one of my boss, by that time after the Chen Shui-bian era, 谢副主任委员, he came to me, sit to my office, communicating with our colleagues, just directly say me, you have to quit your job at Monte Jade. What I did with Monte Jade is to help people. I was tears in eyes. I don't know why this way, but say, don't worry, I will do it. That's why E3 Li Lizong took the job for Monte Jade. And also, I took an early retirement, 1 year early retirement, at the age of 64. Yeah. Thank you.
So I know that that was a huge impact to you. I mean, taking on some of these political challenges, and how did you deal with it? How did you overcome some of these challenges?
I didn't just yield, but nowadays, if I think back, people say I don't love Taiwan. I mention one thing: what do we do? 1999, September 21, the big earthquake happened in China. In Taiwan. Within 1 week, under the leadership of Monte Jade, under JC, I don't know whether JC is today is here or not. JC Chen.
I think he's in Taiwan right now.
We, with 15 community, we saw Taiwan 救灾联盟, 地震救灾联盟. Within 2 months, we had donation $933,000 US. To use that, we have a resolution, no indirect fee at all, with all the money were used for the people there. I take some example, because by that time, the very first few days, the aborigines in the village there, they don't have water to drink because of the water source polluted with dead animals. Yeah. So we have to really air transport all the water purification system to the village, individually. Some to the primary school, some intersection of the road, directly from, this is the water purification with reverse osmosis, and also the ultraviolet light, centering. So to there. This is the best water source for them. We also, some people, they don't, there's a hospital, 叫南云医院 in Nantou. There are too many people get injured. Mm-hmm. So the hospital cannot manage at all. So they have a kind of mobile clinic, put all things on the car, and also train the patient care at home. All this program we support directly. And so many things. I just mentioned a few that we do. And at last, after we spend that, I still remember we have 40,000 some rest. We put all this to Tzu to replace that. Yeah. There are so many things to mention.
That's amazing.
And 2 years afterwards, there's a 911. We'll also do the same thing. We're thinking that this firefighter, they're so courageous. They know they step down to the building, we're not alive, but they do that. So we also have this kind of, I still remember a person Yamei could be also here. Come to office. I admire what you did. I support you. In front of me, wrote a check, $200,000, just for. But don't mention my name. So today, after 20 more some years, I didn't mention his name at all. Yeah, this all they leaded by Monte Jade, because you called Monte Jade for community service. This is the same. Not even community here, but Taiwan, but also New York.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's all about building community.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I want to go a little bit back to your days at the lab, the 33 different labs. And I know there's a lot of different special domains really required on that. Were there any really interesting kind of opportunities and big problems that you were trying to solve there or working on? I was just very curious on some of those areas.
Yeah. And some specific area very unique for our institute is the radioisotopes applications. So I think that this is a good way for us to think. So I decided we buy a cyclotron, a medium cyclotron, so that we can produce isotopes for short-lived isotopes for use. For example, like nowadays, PET technique for the cancer detection is very powerful. We produce like fluorine 18. Which we got the first license in Taiwan for that. Yeah, talk about PET. It reminds me a story, actually a joke. Nobody else can take. This is very unique. We have a colleague who do the radioisotope for medical use. He just do only for that. Perhaps Dr. Ding Jensen. Yeah. And he came to visit me at Stanford because the PET is so powerful. There's a PET hospital. They have the cyclotron. They have all the equipment to very fast, even cure something. And he visited me at Stanford, El Camino in front of Stanford. Just wonder. No wonder how advanced U.S. is, especially for medical research, medical application, also healthcare. Within 1 mile, you have 3 PET hospitals. He mentioned this is with cyclotron. I thought, no, this is a hospital for dogs and cats, for pets. He didn't know that. He only know the PET.
So I know we often talk about some of the issues with Taiwan being known as like a contract manufacturer, right? Like we're just good at manufacturing. We don't have any deep technology, no deep IP. Like how do we as a community start to address and solve these problems that are very core to long-term success of a society?
I still have a kind of my own believing to root the technology in a country. You have to build up the core technology in universities. Perhaps Zhongnan have this feeling too. Because if you build the technology in university, it has a less so-called patent concern, property, intellectual property concern. Also, you have people participate, even they're not graduate, even they're students. And also, when they graduate, they know everything about, so they can be good people for the company, could be a key person for the company. Yeah, so that's all. I always believe that. But in some countries like Taiwan too, in the academic society, they do publish. But the university, the university people, they know nothing about our industry. I still advocate that. This is very important for a country.
Right.
That's why after my retirement, I went to Stanford. A program attracted me there. By that time they published a book, Silicon Valley Age. You know, perhaps you all know this. From the Stanford program for regions of high technology and entrepreneurship.
Sure.
Spree program. Yeah, I entered that program.
That's great. So I'm a big believer that the linkage of a government institutes with university systems are paramount to the long-term success and development of ecosystem. And I'm really excited to hear more about this visiting scholar thing at Stanford. Can you tell us, what did you work on, and what are some of the interesting things that you did there?
Yeah. At the beginning, I entered Stanford. I actually started a seminar. I asked the friends in Silicon Valley, successful entrepreneurs, to talk in the seminars, to bring how in Silicon Valley the Chinese they are doing. So by that time, in Stanford, at Stanford by that time, you can see so many Chinese entrepreneurs become eye-catching on campus. Yeah. That was the first phase. Then there's a collaboration program between by that time Spree and IEK from ITRI. They provide me a natural way to do things for Taiwan. Yeah, that's for almost 10 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are there areas that you're still very excited about today? Like, I know you had talked a little bit about INER.
Mm-hmm.
Anything there that you want to talk about?
Yeah. INER is the institute I served for 27 years, Institute of Nuclear Energy Research. I think it's good achievement. Perhaps people would like to listen to. One program called the PRA program. PRA means probable risk assessment. So for those accidents, which is less frequent, but the consequence very high, you use this method to do the work. The institute has made, for all 3 power reactor sites in Taiwan, we do this, each for like 1 year, something. I remember one thing we have. After this study, we recommend Taipower for the 3rd power reactor in the south. There should be additional 1 diesel generator. Because we saw the most frequent accident, most probable accident is the typhoon. Because in the south, typhoon hit Taiwan much more. And because on the southern tip, there are no big mountains. Just the heat was very, very high. Assumption is that there's a big typhoon, they blow out the switchyard. So then there's a blackout of the system, of the whole plant. Then you need emergency power. You need a higher, reliable emergency power kick on. Now we think with 2 diesel generators is not enough. You have to build additional one. Taipower followed this suggestion. They did do. Not long after, that was actually, according to the record, that's once the 3rd power generator, diesel generator kick on. Without that, as we suggested, it would be catastrophic that we couldn't imagine. So I think this is a good.
Yeah, that's an amazing story about saving a lot of people with some of these recommendations.
Yeah.
I know you also think about community a lot. So what do you think that we should be doing as a community for the next 10, 20 years to really help each other and be more successful?
Yeah, perhaps at this chance, thanks for the question. I'm now still volunteers for 2 associations. Perhaps all you know, the New Hope for Cancer Patient Service. I'm working as a volunteer there. And the other is Asian Liver Center. Perhaps you'll know that at Stanford. Why the Liver Center? I must tell you my own story. In 80s, when I was in Taiwan, I was diagnosed. I have a liver. I have a hepatitis B positive. That's all. Perhaps from very young as a child I got. And then there's no cure at all. And nowadays in Taiwan, there's still 2,500,000. They have this hepatitis B. And what I say that in Silicon Valley, what we're facing now, perhaps some of you know that. According to a publication last year, in U.S., broad U.S., county-wise, 2 counties are among the top, the highest density of hepatitis B. The first one is, I would say, downtown San Francisco. The second one, Santa Clara County. Third one, Alameda County. Fourth one, San Mateo County. All here. Because of what? Because the high density of Chinese here. Santa Clara County alone, according to that publication, we have now already in record 31,732 cases of hepatitis B chronic. They have no cure. You know, for liver cancer, the most probable way lead to liver cancer is from hepatitis B. Perhaps you all know that. And nowadays, there's ways, if you have this, cope with it. Even you cannot cure it, you can really control it, not develop to liver cancer. Yeah. 2 weeks ago, I talked to Dr. Su, Samuel Su, at Stanford. He said nowadays, if you took a medical pill, oral pill, you can probably avoid it for the development. But it costs you only $36 a year.
That's it?
For that, that's it. But you need to contact your doctor, your medical doctor. This should be under the doctor's prescription doing that. But you have ways to monitor yourself. But sometimes people come to, so you have liver cancer, but you can live only 3 months to 6 months because it's too late. Because liver don't have any kind of nerve, you didn't feel. Only 1/10 of the liver function that keep your life so it's normal. Yeah. So that's why I think this is a good way, especially among Chinese community, to do the job. I always talk about that.
It's always inspiring hearing about someone so passionate to still continue to help support the community. How do we find more people, and how do we get more people involved in supporting our community? Because it can't just be yourself doing it. Like, how do we get other people?
Yeah, what I'm doing at the New Hope is do education. So talk about, I even make my own video doing that.
That's great.
And I think, like this occasion, I can talk. I can say that. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And for me, myself, I have this chronic hepatitis. But all of a sudden, when I came home, by that time in Taiwan, my wife knows, I have a separate shower room. I have all my, in the dining, have separate everything from the kids, from her. But nowadays, I think it's not necessary. It's not contagious. It's contagious only through blood. Even kiss, it's safe. But you use all the blood things, like natural blood transfusion, but even razors could be dangerous. Yeah, and yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, I want to thank you very much for sharing your journey with us, and I think it's so important because I don't think a lot of people have the full color around all the things that you've done and you've impacted for our community. So I want to thank you very much for coming, and give them a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you for such a meaningful, thoughtful questions. lead me to explain the things.
So at this time, I want to open up the floor to any questions that someone may have. Feel free to use Chinese if it's easier as well. Anyone have any questions? No questions. No questions. We got one. We have one.
Dr. Zhou, thank you so much. So as a volunteer, I saw you so regularly, and I didn't know all your background and contribution to society, really. So the question I have, though, goes back. This is the first time I heard about when you went 11 years old to Taiwan, and I was wondering how and what suggestions for other kids, that we may see. What might you suggest? How can one stay so strong and survive without the parents?
Yeah, I think you mentioned my siblings. How about my siblings?
I think the question was around as you fled mainland to Taiwan. How did you stay so strong? And then how do we transfer that to other people, and how can they learn from that as well?
I live a very simple life. I think before 15, I never even don't know what Kaohsiung city is. I live in Zuoying. It's so simple life over there. Yeah, that's enough. Is that?
Yeah, that's okay.
Hi, it's really a pleasure to be here. It's a nice speech. I have a question. So my background is very similar to yours because we are hybrid. I came here when I was 15 years old. Except my background is not as strong and tough as yours. But for the next generation, like people who are actually born here, like without the cultural context we have from Taiwan and Americans, how do they, can you share with us some advice you can, maybe they are the second generation of Taiwanese Americans, how should they also fight, put their own strength to fight through the glass ceiling in the United States and get into the ministry, but also maybe you can share with us a few words or advice to help the next generation to maintain this tie. Because I volunteer in Palo Alto Chinese school every Friday, try to teach them more Chinese and see if they can connect that tie. But maybe I can learn more from you about this.
Oh, you're doing good job.
Thank
This
you.
is that's neat. I think keep the Chinese tradition is also important. I think they're all there.
Thank you, Dr. Zhou. It's a wonderful story. So my question is, how do you tell your brain, since you observe for such a long period of time, you must have seen something changed. And so my question is, what are the important changes you've seen from the states, let's say we based on Silicon Valley, what are the changes that you've seen? And what do you think that are good or bad, you can feel free to comment, and what is your comment or recommendation for the days to come? How do we see?
I think Silicon Valley provide a broader opportunity, at least compared to Taiwan, I think. Yeah. For me, it's broadened my vision so much. Yeah.
Is there any recommendations that you would have for people kind of in the audience of how we can best leverage that broadening dynamic?
Actually, join community. Community work is much more powerful than you do by yourself, and then you get good friends. Yeah, you only last week, I got a good friend from Nigeria. Every day they call me. Yeah, you just communicate, contact people if you like. This Nigeria is been 3 months here. He's a Catholic priest from Nigeria.
Wow.
So if I open my cell, I got a phone call.
Any other questions? We have a question over here.
Hi. So my question is, when you went to Germany, you said you just started the nuclear research after World War II.
Yeah.
I was wondering, how is their nuclear research monitored? Because they are it's after World War II, right? They were defeated, and so I guess the world community must be very suspicious or careful of what they can do and what they cannot do. How is that monitored?
Yeah. Perhaps I speak a little bit broader. They're kind of like a NPT, you know that, Non-Proliferation Treaty, which is a treaty among all nations. In that treaty, the countries can divide it into two groups. One group is a nuclear countries. There are 5, like U.S., like Russia, England, France, and China. Mainland China, mainland China. These are the so-called nuclear countries. The others are non-nuclear countries. Even India and Pakistan, they have the capability. But in that treaty, they said, you're not. So you have the safeguard so-called monitoring. Your facility, if you sign this treaty, you are obliged to get inspector come to you. They make a regular report to IEA. Yeah, this is the way I know of. They have a good method doing that monitoring. Monitoring, the major is the material, the weapon grade material, plutonium or uranium 235. Yeah.
I guess I might have a. So basically, the research in Germany is for peaceful utilization of nuclear energy. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
But they developed some technology some other countries use for other purpose, but they don't use it by themselves. For example, they developed in Ulich a centrifuge enrichment process, which Pakistan used. Yeah, this is originally from Germany. I know the Khan, that person. We're in the same age.
Sorry.
We'll get back to you. We'll let someone else ask a question.
Okay, so thank you for a wonderful story. I'd like to ask you about energy policy related question. There are so much debate going on. Some country pro nuclear energy, and some country against nuclear energy. And you have seen all the new technology in Silicon Valley, solar energy and other things. So if you are a policy maker for a nation, what would you recommend?
Thank you for the question. Naturally, I'm from nuclear. I think nuclear is still an option if you do it carefully. Perhaps people know that after the 3 Mile Island in 1979, in U.S., there's no new nuclear units have been built. No one I know of. I mean, in operation at least. But still today, you didn't know, 20% of all the electricity in U.S. come from nuclear. Anybody know that? Even a little bit more, 20, 21, something. Yeah. Perhaps Jen-Chang, you know something about that. It's too political. Nuclear become too political. Germany is an example. Germany is very well positioned. They're doing nuclear. They even export nuclear power plants, but they don't do that because political reason. Yeah. Also back to Carter side, time. The nuclear fuel from the power plant, what they use is follow the U.S. rule. Storage. You get accumulation. But you can really do it even better other way. But other ways is against proliferation. They think of that. Yeah. I think nuclear is an option, and conservation, energy conservation is a good way. Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions? One more over there.
Hi, I know Zhou Zhang for about 20 years. I think
More than that.
Here. Yeah,
More than that. I think
uh,
25 years.
Yeah. I think everybody here understands Mandarin, right?
Yeah, use Chinese. That's okay.
I'm going to ask you in Mandarin.
Yes.
周市长你好，我认识你的时候，我就听过一些事情，那我一直不好意思问你，那我想在这个年头，如果你不介意的话，我就问你哈。那但是我不说我听到的是什么，但是我想问另外一个角度来看同样的问题，就是你从能源所的所长管那么多人，来了美国只管2-3个人，中间发生的一些事情啊，那详细我也不知道，那我一直不好意思问你。那这种一个很大的转变，那当时如果你愿意的话，就分享你的心历程跟当时。
你让我真是，因为这个话我已经跟几个老朋友讲过了，因为你要做一个这么大的责任，像刚刚 David 这样问的，这样的转变一定是一个很大的转变。你可以做很多事情，为什么不继续做，来做这个？当然到这来，在我来说，对我蛮好的，正好我发挥了我的力量。我到今天，我也是觉得真是科学组真好。我今天我还跟那位新来的那位秘书先生，我说我要请你吃中饭，我要跟你 share 我的经验，好，你可以对这个科学组可以做更多的贡献。我刚刚就跟他讲这个事情啊，虽然我还没有跟他讲过话，但是我今天就讲了这个事情，因为这正好是有非常好的机会来报效国家，真的是这样的。但是那个时候呢，我觉得我的责任很大，但是这个责任啊，要一个好的长官，啊。长官有的时候他跟你的理念不一样，你要跟他的理念一样。可是他的理念跟你理念不合的话，你觉得你做事情就好像没有那个意愿了，啊！我想这是一个很重要的因素。但我问我一个新的主管问说：“你现在你是我的朋友，我要问你，你就也不要参考人啊，你认为这个1000多人的核能研究所做什么最应该？你跟我讲。”我们就从这个地方开始讨论，我真的这样讲了。他怎么说？哎呀，你不要去烦生了，只要现在的台湾运转中的 reactor 能够安全运转，你就安了。我回去睡不着觉，因为这个安全跟我没有关系，因为台电的，我最多只能做安全的研究，我最多给你做个建议。那要真正使它安全，还早了，啊，而且也不是我的责任。我觉得我不称职了，我不能达到他的目的，就这样子。这是 main reason。我真是我心里就要讲这个事情。我回来跟我太太讲过这个事情，当时这样。
还有没有别的问题
？Okay, so I'm still interested in nuclear.
So we have time to have a coffee drink.
Okay, so several years ago, I have my coworker also learned nuclear engineering in his master program. He talked about he said that the nuclear fusion is a new type of power, nuclear power plant, and he said probably in 10 or 15 years there will be that kind of power plant will be in use, and still, but that type of power plant is.
You're not talking about the cold fusion. No cold fusion.
Nuclear fusion, nuclear fusion, 核聚合, yeah. So he said it's safer and it's much safer way of generating power with nuclear reaction. So what is the latest development? Are we close to using that kind of power plants?
I think it's not close. The fusion only takes place in very high temperature. To achieve the high temperature and to get insulated you have the material to that. You still need to develop. This is my thinking. So people think that they are doing inertial fusion might be easier, which is also not that much progress. As far as I know, I left nuclear for 30 years already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. So, Zhou Zhang, thank you very, very much. We have a gift for you today, too. Thank you. There's a gift for us.
谢谢大家，耽误大家的时间。
来，我们照个相，我们一起照个相，好不好？
这边，然后我这样子，你们
OK， 哦，我们站在前面。OK， 好好。
大家都会进来哦。OK， 好，2、3，好，很好。All right， 谢谢。